Hi you guys, welcome back. Well, today I'm going to be putting some molding up that looks just like this. I did this in my dining room and I'm going to apply some molding on the outside so it's facing my front living room. This really doesn't take that many complicated tools, but if you know your way around a chop saw and know how to use a nail gun, you're good to go. So let's get started. Okay, all the parts that I'm using today I got at Home Depot. All you're going to need for this job is a chop saw, some glue, a compressor, a ladder, and a finished nail gun, and a tape measure, and a pencil. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut our base molding so we can fit this base piece of molding that I made. As you can see in this picture, this one has already been installed, but it's that bottom piece there. Okay, so you're going to have to get a couple of pieces at Home Depot. One's a base molding, as you can see here, and another one is just a square piece of molding that's the same height as your base molding. Both of them are going to be about 5/8 of an inch thick. You're going to buy about 12 inches of each. Then you're going to glue them together, staple them together, and you're going to cut them 4 inches wide. You'll need to cut 2 pieces. Okay, now we're going to have to notch out the base molding that's on there right now and cut out 4 inches so that those 2 pieces that you cut, one of them can fit in there. And I'll show you how to do that here. Okay, all I'm doing here is just drawing a pencil line. The pilaster is 4 inches wide, so I'm using that as a guide. As you can see, I have rounded corners. So I'm putting the pilaster right against that round molding and measuring off 4 inches and cutting it. Okay, as you can see, I got it cut here on the left side. Do the same thing on the right side. Once you got it cut, go ahead and install your base molding that you built. Put one on the left side and one on the right side. Okay, I'm using my finished nail gun and shooting 2-inch nails. Now we're going to take our pilaster and trim off the bottom of your, and put that towards the bottom. We're going to mark the top so we can cut it to the correct length. Like I said, the edges that I'm working with are curved, so I need to be 5/8 away from that edge. Here's a closer look what we're trying to achieve. We're going to need 5/8 from the top to bottom and 5/8 from side to side. If you want to go higher up on top, more than 5/8, that's up to you. Okay, now that I've marked my 5/8 on top on the wall, I'm going to mark my pilaster where I need to cut. Now that we got our pilaster correctly cut to length, we can go ahead and start nailing it in. Do the left side, then do the opposite side also. Now that we have our 2 pilasters in, we're going to install our 3-inch piece of 3/4 by 3 inch. You can see how it hangs over the pilaster about 3/8 of an inch on each side. Go ahead and glue and nail it. You can also see my OGee molding is approximately 1/4 of an inch above the 3/4 by 3 inch piece that we're going to install first. Okay, let's take a look at a cross section of what we're going to do. This is your 3/4 by 3 inch piece. What we're going to do is go ahead and glue and nail that on right on top of your pilasters. Then comes the OGee. That's not going to sit flush to the bottom. We're going to have it sit up about 3/8 of an inch. Now we're going to apply our dental molding. Word of advice, paint this before you install it. It'll be a lot easier. You can see there's a little slot at the bottom. Make sure when you nail it, that's towards the bottom. Now we're going to take our 3/4 by 3/4 piece and nail it directly on top of our 3/4 by 3 inch piece as shown. Okay, next is going to be just a little tricky. We want to put the 3/4 by 3/4 piece on top of the other 3/4 by 3/4 piece, but they're not going to align. It's going to get nailed right on top of the dental molding, and you'll see it's just slightly below the 3/4 by 3 inch line there. Once you got that all glued and nailed in, now we can apply the crown molding. What you see here is that 3/4 by 3 inch piece of poplar that I have up nailed. You can also see how it hangs over 3/8 of an inch on each end of the pilaster. As you can see on this shot, my piece was short, so I had to scarf a piece in. Now I need to draw a pencil line, so I'm using this piece as a gauge. It's approximately about a 1/2 inch wide, and I'm going to use the scribe to draw my line on my 3/4 by 3 inch piece of poplar. I said 3/8 on the cross section, but I decided to use 1/2 inch here. Just looks better. Okay, now we're ready to put on our OGee molding. Since my piece is short, I'm going to have to put a scarf joint on the right side. Now we're going to install the OGee right to the pencil line, about a 1/2 inch above the edge of the 3/4 by 3 inch. Of course, glue and nail it in. I'm using 1.5 inch nails here. I don't think they need to be really that long. Make sure it looks nice and straight. Okay, I'm trying to match up my scarf joint here. I'm using a 15-degree scarf angle on here. Once the joint looks good, I go ahead and mark the bottom of my OGee molding so I can get my 45-degree cut. Once you got it cut, go ahead and glue it and nail it in. Now we're going to cut the returns of our OGee. We're going to measure from the wall to the longest point of the OGee molding. I'm getting about 1.5 inches. So cutting small pieces are dangerous, so what I do is I cut 2 45s on each end, and then I cut it to length, or 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to glue it in, and as I glue it in, I'm going to hold it for a couple of seconds so it'll dry, and then I'll put my nail on. If you're a little short, it's okay because we're going to come back and spackle. Okay, you can see this red arrow here. This is where we're going to put our dental molding, and this is where our dental molding is going to stop. It's going to be flush to this 3/4 by 3 inch piece of poplar. Okay, you can see the white arrow here. We've already installed our 3/4 by 3/4 on top of our 3/4 by 3 inch piece, as shown in the section view that I gave you earlier. Okay, just like on the section view, this is the 3/4 by 3/4 piece that's going to get nailed right on top of the dental molding, but obviously nailed back to the 3/4 by 3/4 piece. Remember to keep it flush with the other 3/4 by 3/4 piece. Here I'm using a little wood glue. You can see how much wood glue I'm using here. Again, make sure it's flush. Go ahead and glue it and nail it in. Okay, now I'm going to work on my crown molding. I like to work from left to right, so I'm cutting my 45-degree angle first on the left side. Then I'm going to do a 15-degree scarf cut on the right side because my part is too short. As you can see, we're starting on the left side and we're going to nail it on the 3/4 by 3/4 that protrudes out of the dental molding. Go ahead and glue and nail it in. Okay, it looks like we're almost done with the patient. So far it's looking pretty good. Okay, let's work on our scarf cut. Looks like the first cut I did doesn't look very well, so I'm going to have to cut it with a shorter angle. I think I'm going to go with, instead of 15, I'm going to go 13. See how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. Once we spackle it, it'll look really nice, and once there's paint over it, it'll be a lot better looking. Now we're going to mark for our 45-degree cut. Stay tuned for my next video, how to correctly cut crown molding. I know, I'm a hack. Okay, let's see how it fits. Okay, it looks like it fits really good. Let's go ahead and glue it up and nail it in. Okay, I'm going to shoot a nail here in the middle of the crown molding, the belly of the crown molding, because it's thicker there. Okay, we're going to do the same thing like we did with the OGee molding. We're going to measure from the longest point of the crown molding how far it sticks out the wall. So it's from the wall to that front part of the crown molding. We're going to get a measurement, and it comes out to about 3 15/16. Okay, just like we did with the OGee molding, we're going to cut 2 45s on each end. And then we're going to measure out the 3 15/16 and just chop that end. Okay, all we got to do is glue and nail this in, these 2 parts, and these are our 2 last parts to install. Okay, if you've done everything correctly, this is what it's supposed to look like when it's done. Next is just putty and spackle any areas that you see nail holes or cracks. Fill it, let it dry, and then just go ahead and paint it with your favorite color. I'm going to use an ultra white gloss paint. Okay, this is after I puttied and sanded and gave it 1 coat of paint. I'm sure glad I pre-painted the dental molding because that would have been really hard to paint. I'm going to putty and sand it again, check any areas that I missed, sand any wood that doesn't look right so it looks like it's all in one piece, and then I'll put a final coat on and we're done. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you get to see some of my other videos that I have. Until then, we'll see you at my next video. Bye!